One guitar junkie here, and we're going to look at movable scale forms again. I realized the last two lessons have shown the G-form pentatonic and the G-form Dorian and the G-form natural minor, but I've only shown them in the G-form. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to be stuck in that one position, I want to move around. Well, my scale form page shows the other positions, but I think until I hook it all together, some people still aren't going to understand it. We're going to look at the key of C, where there's no sharps, no flats, and you'll notice on this diagram I have the names of all the named notes. I don't have the sharps and flats on here. I left them blank. For instance, you'll see there's nothing in between A and B, okay, because that note could be referred to by two names. We could call that an A sharp or a B flat, and depending on what key you're in, it'll only have one name. If we're in the key of F, that's going to be a B flat. If we're in the key of B, that's going to be an A sharp. The reasons for that go deeper into music theory than most of you want to go, but basically because you can only use the name of a note one time in a scale. You can't use it twice, and you can't call a sharp and a flat in the same key. So that's going to be a B flat in the key of F, and it's going to be an A sharp in the key of B. Don't worry about that for now. We're going to look at the pentatonic scale first. And now you could call this the C major pentatonic scale or the A minor pentatonic scale, depending on your point of view. I'm going to call it C major. We're going to use a C, a D, an E, a G, an A. There's our 5 notes. That's our pentatonic scale, penta meaning 5. Now, we can continue on up. Here's another C, D, E, G, A, and then another C to give us the octave. So there's 2 full octaves. Now, of course, we could use this A also. Now, if we treat this C as the root, we have a C major pentatonic scale. And the reason it's C major is if you play C, D, E, it's the first 3 notes of a major scale. That's your major third, and we have a major second, C, D, E. But if you were to play it starting on the A, you're going to have a minor third right away. You're skipping the second. There's no second at all. We have a minor third. Now that's one of the things I want you to notice, that we have a minor third there. Now over here, you can see 2 minor thirds next to each other. As we make the rest of the pentatonic shapes, you're going to see that shape right there repeat all over the neck. And when you're in the pentatonic scales, whenever you have these 2 minor thirds next to each other, a distance of 2 frets skipped, as opposed to these only 2 frets here, we have major seconds, but here we got 2 empty frets. It's a 3 fret stretch. Wherever those 3 fret stretches happen, your root of the major scale is going to be of this little box. If we call that rectangle a box, where you have a minor third and a minor third, there's your root, there's your 5, there's your relative minor if you want to start there. Now that'll happen again. What I'm going to do now is change colors and circle the exact same notes again. We're using G up here, but there's another G here that we're not using. We're using C, there's another C right here. We're using E, there's an E right here. We're using A, there's our A, there's our D, there's our G. So if we use these notes along with these notes, I know it's going to get confusing. If you use the red circles, you're still using a pentatonic scale. The hammer-ons will be in a different place, and the stretches will be in a different place. But there's that minor third again. Minor third, and like I said before, that's how you find your root. When you're moving up and down the neck with a pentatonic scale, wherever the 2 minor thirds are, the one in this corner is your root, there's your perfect fifth, and there's your relative minor, right there. Same thing here, root, fifth, relative minor. Okay? Now we're going to change colors again. Because we have another one. I can circle this D up there, and that G, and that C, and that E, that A, and that D. Now if we were to use these notes along with those notes, now I'm going to circle these again. It's going to get a little confusing. You're going to see all these colors. But as long as you only use one color at a time, there's another pentatonic. You can improvise there using the same notes. Okay, now This one that we first did in blue is now pretty obscured with the green and red, but that's your G form. Okay, and you can see a G chord if these were the open strings. I can't do it that direction. But if we were to slide that all the way down, you would see the shape of the G chord, and I'm going to show you that. If these were the open strings, that would be your third finger, second finger, and your fourth finger right there, and all these open, there's your G chord. Okay? Right underneath that, we'd be using our A form. If this, what we've got here, if we barred across here, and we held these three notes, there's your A chord. Okay, but because we've moved up 3 frets, if we barred this, and we held those 3 strings, we'd have a C chord here. Down in open position, that would be your A chord. So we call this our A form pentatonic. There's our G form pentatonic. Up here, if we barred this and played those 3 notes, we'd have an E chord. This would be your bar. There'd be your second and third finger. And in a bar, if we scooted down until this was open, there would be your open strings. And there would be your second and third finger, and your first finger, that would be an E chord. If we make a bar form, bar chord out of our E form, there would be your bar, third and fourth finger, and your second finger. And that would give us a C chord at this position. And in each of these shapes, if you were to bar it and make the bar chord, you'd see what the scale form was named after. Now down here in open position, we have E, A, D, G, there's our C, there's our E. Okay, and if I were to circle these notes again, and you use the green notes down here, you would have your C form pentatonic. And it's based around a C chord, and you can see the C chord right there, C, E, C, and the open strings would be a G and an E. So there's our C form pentatonic down here, A form pentatonic, G form pentatonic, E form pentatonic. Now the ones that most people use are the E form and the A form. And if you go to my scale form page and just look at the pentatonics, you'll recognize them. Now here's that minor third again. The 2 minor thirds next to each other. There's your root, your 5, and the root of your relative minor. Okay? Here, in this one, we've got that minor third shape again, that big rectangle. There's your root, your 5, and your relative minor. Okay, here's that shape right there. There's your root, your 5, and your relative minor. Here, we have it again. There's your root, your 5, and your relative minor. Okay, now, we're going to go one more time up here. E, A, and all we're doing is circling the same notes that we were using in every one of these scale forms. And that's your D form pentatonic. Now in the D form, some people actually add this extra note in, and they do a slide up into it and get it right there. I'm one of those people. When I play my D form, I can get my root right down there. So I do first finger, third finger, fourth finger, or first finger, third finger slide. I actually start out on my root and then go into the D form pentatonic right here. But there's let's see, here, because we're crossing from the G string to the B string, and the B string is tuned differently, our rectangle that normally shows us the root, the fifth, and the minor third, the 2 minor thirds next to each other, I mean the relative minor, the 2 minor thirds next to each other are offset because we're crossing the B string. Okay, so they form a parallelogram here instead of a rectangle. But there's your root, your fifth, and your minor third, and it's there again. So your D form pentatonic, I'm going to use blue. You could use that blue note there. That would be either 1-3 slide or 1-3 fourth finger and then shift up. But if you use these blue notes, you've got a D form pentatonic, and it's got a couple of stretches in it and a couple of shifts. People don't use it very often except to work their way across the neck. So there's all 5 pentatonic shapes on the same diagram. You got your C form. The C form is these green circles, if you can make it out. The A form is the red circles. Your G form is the blue circles here. That's the one that almost everybody knows. The green ones are your E form, and the blue ones again up here are your D form. So if you need to pause that video and look at it, I will snap a picture of this now that it's all colored. In fact, I'll snap pictures of it in each stage of its progression and try and upload them to the page somewhere. there are basically 5 shapes. Okay, and there's a study program out there called the 5 forms. It'll show you 5 forms of the pentatonic scale. It's the same 5 forms, but they call them by numbers. I use the fretboard logic method. We call them by names. That's your C form down here, A form, G form, E form, and a D form. That's C-A-G-E-D. That spells caged. So when you hear people talking about the caged format, this is the format they're talking about. All right, and we'll do a video demonstration of this too.